Decorating Pages is a podcast dedicated to taking you behind the scenes of the designs of your favorite TV shows and films. Each episode, I'll be sharing design stories from some of Hollywood's most famous sets. Interviews from set decorators, production designers, directors, and actors about creating the look of TV and film, about their design inspirations, and stories that take sets from page to screen. Hello, and welcome to Decorating Pages. I am your host, Kim Wanup. How are you? It's almost Labor Day. We've had a full summer off here with this strike. It's like we're teachers. Remember that? Like teachers would get the whole summer off. We would go out and play for 10 weeks. I'm from the East Coast. We would basically have off second week of June till after Labor Day. This going to school before Labor Day thing blows my mind. I don't know. If I was a kid, I'd be super pissed because you're getting gypped. I don't know. Back now I have to check in back east if they're still doing it right, or everybody's like LA out here and sending your kids back as soon as you can. I don't know. But it's going to get hot here this week in LA. So I'm preparing for summertime. And then the other thing is the weather is different. Summertime, it's always hot in September, even October here. Whereas, you're getting the chills back here. It's football weather. It should be football weather. Got a little taste of some football this past week. I went to the USC game. They won. Woohoo! Fight on. I married into the cult, as I've told many people. My husband being, loves the Philadelphia Eagles. So we share, gotta share. It's 50-50. But yeah, the strike. Let's get back to that. So, they proposed a deal and the writers said, this is a joke. We waited all this time for this and it's a joke and a slap in the face. And if it took 4 months to get slapped in the face, we're screwed. I don't know. I don't get it. I forgot. I was going to look up what is the longest strike in history. Let me look that up. Oh, it's Kohler, 1954 to 1961. Labor columnist and longtime editor Racine Labor was written and analyst in a longtime strike in U.S. history. The United Auto Workers' 7-year battle with Kohler Corporation. 54 to 61. Well, that's not us. It can't be, right? 7 months maybe. That would be the longest, right? I don't know. There were some articles today about SAG-AFTRA saying, we're ready. We're ready to talk anytime you want to talk to us. We're ready. So SAG wants to get the ball rolling, which I hope they do. I don't know why my crystal ball thinks they will settle with SAG before they settle with the actors. That's just me. Basing that on nothing. Well, I'm basing it on they're probably going to give the actors this and that, and then they give the writers the leftover and see how much they got left. I don't know why I think that. I don't know. Okay, what is Wanup watching? Let's get to that. I watched Asteroid City this week. Production designer Adam Stockhausen and set decorator Chris Moran. The camera work, the sets, the look of it, it's all my dog. It's all great. It's all Wes Anderson awesome. Okay? The actors in the story were not, I guess the actors were great. They acted as well as they could, but I really think it's a misstep. I don't know. I would have turned it off in 5 minutes if I wasn't such a fan of seeing what the set was going to be next. I love Royal Tenenbaums so much. And Budapest Hotel, like all of his films I thought are good. And some of them linger a little bit, but this, I don't know. This was boring as fuck. I don't know. I don't know. Sorry. The finale of And Just Like That, with production designer Miguel Lopez Costello, set decorator Molly Robinson, Karen Holmes, and Jamie Bresky. Everyone's shitting on this season. It's not good and everything. And I even got really bored and kind of like, why am I watching this in the middle? Overall, it's a good story. And it's not like Sex and the City has ever been phenomenal, like must-see TV. It's a good show, and it's a chick show. And the fashion is phenomenal, and the high-style New York. And I love the sets. So, it's fine. It's going to be great, people. It's going to be fine. Not the ending we wanted. But does she ever get the ending she wants? No. So that's why we come back and watch it again. Still loving Winning Time on HBO Max, or just Max, whatever. Production designer Richard Toynton, and set decorator John Bush. Still loving the look of this, man. And I am just enthralled with the story of the athletes and how they got to where they needed to be. And so, yeah, I'm really loving watching that. That's about it. I mean, I'm watching a lot of other things, but I'm not going to talk about it yet because it's all part of my little film study thing that I'm doing here. Oh, I'll tell you what I did watch. Sister Wives. And it's awesome. And set decorator Jane Madden and I might have to do a sidebar podcast just on the decor of Set Wives. And we've watched, like 18 seasons of this. We want to talk about it. Yeah. So, yeah, Sister Wives, people. I know. As I just told someone, it's a long haul if you want to try to jump in on it, but woof, it's a good one. That's been a good one. So let's talk about this episode. Today, you are going to hear production designer Liz Bischof, whose work on the period series Son of a Critch is based on the award-winning best-selling memoir of Mark Critch. The coming-of-age story is set in Newfoundland in the 1980s, and they shot the series there to give it the authentic look and feel for his story. Liz started her career as a prop maker and costume designer in theater, and then has transitioned to production design. We chat about loving a good challenge, how things seem to always come together. The town that they shot in had this really great love for this story and a hometown boy, and a lot of people pitched in to help get the series look. I'm sure she'll say thank you a million times to those people from the stories that she told me. How one goes about finding a life-size moose. And always having safety couches, because it's a period show in Newfoundland and they struggled with shipping and all that. So it was an absolute pleasure to speak with her and meet her and to hear about filming in Newfoundland. I would have never known what it's like or what the challenges are. So I hope you enjoy. Designer point of view, like
yeah, totally.
Yeah. Well then, being on a project like Critch is probably sweet because the little boys in there are so sweet, and I would think it's reminiscent, boys growing up and brothers and all. So that's
it was a great show to do. It's so fun. Just that period as well is super fun to try to find stuff, try to get stuff there, because, it's a rock. Shipping it's not a things can arrive tomorrow place.
Right.
It's a shipping takes forever.
So you shot it in Newfoundland?
We did, yeah.
Yeah. How was it? How was it going there and being there?
It's beautiful there.
Yeah.
Whale watching and cod jigging and puffins, amazing hikes, and it's just a beautiful landscape.
Oh.
So that's sort of your backdrop, and then the studio didn't really exist when I arrived. It's an old home hardware warehouse, so that we just built it, literally built it into a studio. So yeah.
I've done that. been in that experience a couple times where they have warehouses and we'll just change it into a studio, and then you're like, okay, but the sound and the flooring isn't right, or like it's
The floor
not
was
that
the
easy.
big issue. Yeah, the floor was a big because all the drains rake.
Right.
So getting a level floor was really, well, it was
Challenging.
complicated for the construction coordinator for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But I had such a great construction coordinator. Every time you gave him something to do, he'd just say, "Oh, no sweat." That was like his line, and he always managed it. He'd never been a construction coordinator before either,
Nice.
so he was just yeah. He just took up every challenge, and it was always like literally, "Oh yeah, cool, no sweat." So yeah,
What's
he was great.
what's his name?
He works in town a lot.
Mm.
He knew the producers quite well. He'd worked on their homes and things.
Oh,
So
nice.
they had 2 shows in Newfoundland going that summer, and if well 3, I guess. So if there's 2 shows going, you don't have enough crew
It's
to crew
not
two
deep.
shows.
Right.
With 3 shows going, you really didn't have enough crew. So lots of people came in from out of town.
Mm.
So that's why he sort of stepped up, and he did an amazing job. He stepped up really well.
Oh, that's great.
Same with my paint team. They stepped up really well too.
Mm.
They did a great job.
How did you get into the project? How did you get involved?
Um, yeah, I guess I knew that I'd worked with the PM who was
Mm-hmm.
out there
Mm-hmm.
before. And I had done a project as an art director, a tiny movie that shot in Northern Ontario and then shot in a couple weeks in Newfoundland. And so I knew a few of the players who worked with that production company a lot.
Nice.
And so, yeah, I just met them, and I pitched, and
Right.
they liked my pitch book, and yeah, that's pretty much how it went.
Well, being familiar with that place in any sense probably is a helpful for you to feel confident enough to want to do it, because it's like, oh, we're going to a place that, as you said, isn't deep in crew, building your own stage and still achieving this like perfect little sitcom of like and a time bubble and like a little time capsule. It's fantastic.
Uh, I love challenges.
Yeah.
I think that, like, I mean, I'll be honest, like, if it's the more challenging it is, the more exciting it is. Like, I mean, the logistics of things is kind of exciting, but, creating that stuff, like, if I don't know how to do it, it's absolutely the job I want to take
Mm,
because it's super fun. And I don't know, I think I'm doing my best work when I'm just a little not sure if I can do it, that
nice.
kind of edge.
That's
So
a
yeah, I
great
love
way to be.
lean into all the fear. That's what I say.
Oh,
It's
nice.
it's yeah, you learn so much and so much more than
Yeah.
you'd learn if you were just doing stuff you knew. So like I'm all for doing something I totally don't know if I can achieve. So I mean, but it was pretty achievable. Like I mean, everybody, it's a very interesting place. Everybody kind of bands together. Um, you take things. I had, I had some ideas of things that I wanted on the set. Like, for instance, the kitchen. I really had this vision in my head for the kitchen. And, um, you know, most of the stuff, like most of the retro stuff is gone from people's houses. But my art director, she put out a call like on Production Resources St. John's, and somebody had a kitchen 45 minutes away that they were taking out of their house. It was the exact kitchen that I wanted.
I love those cabinet doors.
Oh, yeah. That
Ah,
was
I
I
love
had to, so we brought that kitchen in. Of course, it wasn't big enough for a film set kitchen, so we had to create some more of those doors.
yeah.
That was hard, and I started with like, are we going to vacuum form them? Which of course we don't have. Like there was a pan company a couple hours away that vacuum formed steel pans. And, we're starting with these crazy. How do we manage these things where we were? And then one of the printing companies did a 3D print of that on plexiglass to create and it looked perfect. It was so
Oh,
perfect. It was
wow.
great. But it took it. That was one of the challenges. It took a big circle. We went to the university, was really helpful. They wanted to pitch in and try to, help us build it. It was just really different places than you'd normally go to for,
Oh, wow.
you just say to your coordinator, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I just need that. And it would just happen. No, we really had to explore all options to try to figure out how to do that. But it worked. It worked perfectly, and I was super happy with the outcome. And I loved. That was a really important part of it, building that kitchen like that.
Yeah, I love
Really,
the kitchen. I love
yeah.
the, yeah. I love
The
the, I
floor,
love
the
the,
floor.
oh, okay.
Sorry,
Oh, no, go ahead, go ahead.
I say the floor for that
Yes.
kitchen. Yeah, so there's none of those floors available there. And we didn't have the resources to print it. And it was certainly not there. We'd have had to ship it in from Ontario. So, but we were scouting this old school that originally might have been the first school that was a friend of one of the producers. And they just had that floor in one of the rooms. And I'm like, can we just take the floor? So we did. We just literally took it right out of the
Oh,
other space, put it into our kitchen.
that's fantastic. That's a
Yeah.
fantastic find. And hopefully not, well, probably the labor was more expensive than, like,
Did that so many times. I
yeah.
mean, the wood paneling in the house that comes out of an old ice cream factory.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
the bedroom carpet, which I really had this vision of that beautiful sort of 60s textured carpets that they had that were everywhere. Well, you can't find that anymore, and at least nothing in any remote shape or form like that. And then somebody had it in their attic, and it was the right color. And I was like, yes, I'll take it. And then the carpet installer, who was this town, who is the one of the town carpet installers, he took it as a challenge, and he put it together, and he pieced it all together,
Oh, wow.
and built our bedroom carpet from from somebody's attic pieces. Yeah, it
Wow.
was.
I was
Yeah.
gonna ask about like the writer creator having such passion because it's his story, I believe. And
Mm.
it sounds like everyone had a passion for this, which is nice. Everyone sort of like just, giving in and doing what it takes and being resourceful. That sounds amazing.
Well, it's that challenge, right?
Yeah.
I didn't want to I could give up on what it looks like, or we could see what we could find. And it ended up that we were able to find everything. So
Yeah.
it was really great. It was
Did,
really, it's like going to a big yard sale
right.
and like piece together all your pieces until you have everything you need. Like it's a super find, and it's exciting, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's really how it felt some of the time.
Is,
Mark is
oh, yeah.
an amazing man. He's
Yeah.
so lovely. Uh, he, we, when I arrived there, it was COVID. So we had to, we had to stay in, am I saying? I had to isolate for 2 weeks, I guess.
Right, right.
And during that time, I just had so many conversations with him. And
Mm.
he just told me about his life, about his childhood, about his house. He had tons of like scanned pictures that he had.
Oh, that's
And he just his stories are always funny. Like there's so many stories that are not in his books that are just, he's just such a great storyteller. And he's also, he is a local hero in
mm.
town. So people are very open. They all know him, and they all want to help. So yeah, I just, you know, listened to all his stories and looked at all his pictures, and I really wanted to give him as much of his home as I could.
Yeah.
And there are certain places, like he says, like the dining room it's like he's really back in his home.
Oh, that's
Other
fantastic.
spaces, he feels were bigger because we needed them to be bigger to shoot in.
Yeah.
But the dining room in particular really is like, it's really this. It's like he says sometimes it's like a deja vu. I'm like in my house, my dad, So yeah.
Oh my god. And the bedroom, I would think, would be so personal for him as a child, and having all those like rich little posters up, which is fantastic. Like, so funny for a little kid to have that. But
Yeah, he really did. He had all of those things. He talked a lot about, the things that he had in that room.
Mm-hmm.
We tried so hard to get as many of them as possible. And I mean, in the second season, he talked about his Mickey Mouse record player,
Oh,
which we got clearance for and we put in the show. And yeah, um, it was really fun. And he'd every so often he'd come in and he'd just bring me a little thing. Like this was in my room on my desk. And so I'd be like, let's put it in the set,
oh,
So
that's great.
um, yeah, so there's a lot of things that are his in just sort of incorporated and put into the rooms
Oh my God, I
as
would
much as
love that.
possible.
As a decorator, I would love that. Because you can take that Mickey Mouse thing and then run with it a little bit more. If you give you little nuggets, you just run with it, which is always
Yeah.
great. So you don't have to come up with everything.
He just had some interesting things. Like he'd take pictures of stuff he had in storage. I'd be like, that we're gonna put that. It's gonna be by Pop's bed. Like
Yeah.
it's so cool. I don't know what it is. He's like, well, it's this thing that I collected. I'm like, oh, we gotta have it. Let's put it in. So there's plenty of things. His grandmother's wicker furniture is in the dining room. That's
Oh.
actually belongs to his grandmother and was in his dining room. Like they just had no place to put it, so they put it in the dining room. So we put it in the dining room too. It was really, yeah, it was just he was so open to, to all the things I was showing him. It was just a really great collaboration. He really liked the finishes I brought in, and I tried to keep them close, but still create something that
Right.
was was richer for television, I'd say.
Yeah.
And use some of those really great finishes and wallpapers that I thought were good periods
I love
for that.
wallpaper. I'm totally into wallpapers. So
Love it.
I love the concept, which I'm assuming is true, or he just made it for the show, that this little kid shares a bedroom with his grandfather. And in designing that or in decorating that, to have those two elements of like old person, young person meet in the middle, and then the dialogue that goes on between them is just fantastic. The grandfather's fantastic in this.
Well, he really did create that for the show.
Mm.
But Mark's character is kind of an old person too,
Yeah.
like a young
Yeah.
person. So there's something very familiar about somehow the conversations he could have with his grandfather right there. I think. I mean, when we talked about the room, his grandfather has some possessions right by his bed that are really from the 30s, and keeping kind of with that look of whatever he's still collected and kept, which wasn't a lot. But then Mark's side of the room is all kind of these great posters and Captain Canuck comic books, which he did have. He said he had a lot of comic books, he said. And then of course, trying to get clearance for all the comic books was more the issue.
That's what I was going to ask. Even the Mickey Mouse record player, even the posters. I mean, it could be a great personal touch, and then you don't get it cleared, and it's always such a letdown. So it's so fantastic when you see those things. At least for me now, I'm like, oh, good for them getting all that cleared.
It was a lot. Yeah. It was a lot of clearance. But I really wanted to get as much real stuff in there as possible.
Yeah.
So we got Star Wars clearance, and we only had a certain amount of Star Wars clearance. You could only have 2 Star Wars things in the room.
Yeah.
Which is, so that was his bed sheets, because he remembers having those bed sheets and a poster. But in Mike's room, just all the band posters.
Yeah.
They're all as many real posters as we could, but there's a lot of not real posters in there. A lot of almost posters, which somehow managed, our legal team would send back and like, no, it's too close. And you're like, it's not. Look, it's really not.
Might change my 30%. It's totally fine.
Yeah. And then for products, I mean, a lot of the product placement companies that I've worked for before have companies and that have been around for a long time. So I just got clearance to recreate their old packaging.
Yeah.
And that's what we did, from cornflakes to, all the other kitchen products that they had. It was really fun, actually. I'd done that before for another show. I did a show, like early period show, and then we were recreating, like, Hershey's from the 1900s. But that's kind of so I knew it was possible,
Yeah.
and we just did more of that, which was really fun.
It's fun. How big was your art department? Did you have like 2 graphic designers? It seems like you had a lot of graphics going on.
We had so much graphics. I had an incredible amount of graphic designer for a season. She was just such a experienced, fast designer. So I had 2 designers for the run of show, and then I had one who just did like the beginning part, like just before we went to camera. I had one who was working for like about 3 weeks so I just had the 2 were run of show. They kind of did everything, but she was so fast. Yeah. My second, so I won first and won second. And my second, he's a local. He just basically kind of kept everything on the ground running, and then she's just whipping things out, and he's like doing all the just all the regular graphics that, as you will, like the everyday graphics that you need, and she's doing all these other things. It was great. They're really fast.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. Fast turnaround is unfortunately a necessity. How was your shooting? What did you I'm actually very confused about the show, because air dates on like IMDb say that it came out in January, but yet on the CW site it's coming out now. Like, it's confusing me. It's weird.
Yeah, so they're shooting season 3 now.
Oh, they are.
Yeah. So the first season came out 2022. Yeah, 2022 in January on CBC.
I see.
So it was only in Canada, and then halfway, sort of at the beginning of the second season, I know that they started airing in the UK, and then CW picked them up this year, and I think is airing season 1 and season 2.
Yeah, they are. That makes sense. I thought that, and then I was like, well, in this day and age, don't they just release it and everybody gets it? Like, but I guess with networks, it's still how it used to be. Now I have to put my old hat on and think like, no, they don't do that anymore. But yeah, and then so did you shoot season 1 and 2 back to back? Yeah.
No.
Oh, I thought
I was there. I was there the first summer in 2021, and then in 2022 I came back for another summer. And then this year I had another project on the other coast, which I wanted to explore.
Nice.
So somebody else is doing season 3.
And what is it a 6-8 day shoot per episode? I'm assuming 6 to 8, but I think
it's 4.5.
Oh my gosh. I guess because you have a lot of stage work, right? Because it's mostly stage work. Like all your builds, you built the house, you built the radio station. Is that?
No. Radio station's a location.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That looks great.
I think this year they are building the radio station because it's tight. It built the house for the first season. Second season, we did a couple of things. I don't know how far you guys are in second season on CW.
I watched 5 episodes. So I got
season 1?
Of season 1. So I got to Princess Diana.
Oh yeah, that's a great one. Yeah. That was great. That was great.
That looked really fun.
You would not believe that there were only 10 extras at that. Like, it was shot so great.
Really?
Like, there's only 10 extras, yes. We were told that you could only have 10 extras, and she was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? It was COVID. There was all kinds of, rules involved. And they did it with 10. And when I watched it, I was like, I cannot tell. So that's like a little, like it looks so good.
I can't tell at all. And I almost want to go back now and rewatch it to see if like the same people are walking back and forth like a soap opera.
it's like that whole scene where they're outside
Yeah,
and
in the
yeah, that's
stadium.
there's only 10 extras.
Well,
That's
bravo. That is a real challenge, and
I
that is
know.
fantastic filmmaking right there because
Yeah.
I mean, the
We're-
actors are around people. It looks like way more than 10 people. I would have got the crew in there. Been like,
It was such a hard year for shooting. I don't
yeah.
know how it was for you. Like
Yeah.
just before I did that show, I had another show and we were only allowed 10 people. Again, it was like only 10
Oh wow. Oh
people
no.
and we had 11 and I was like, it had to be a full auditorium and I've watched that show too and I've been like so surprised at what they managed because of course it's all VFX. We had a full auditorium people and there were 11 people on stage and we were only allowed 10 and
Oh
it was just it was so challenging.
yeah.
um Really kudos to how they pulled it all together
Oh, that
though
looked
for
great then.
those hard
Yeah.
periods.
It.
And I can't wait till there's 300 extras again.
I think
So
it's
make
now.
it
I think we're done now. Well, we're done. We don't care now. We're done. I don't know about Canada, but we're done. Nobody cares.
yeah, pretty done, I think. Yeah, I think so. It was just so, before COVID, I was working on C and every single shoot was 300 to 400
Yeah,
extras.
huge.
Everything we did, it was huge, massive. And then suddenly, right at COVID, we're like only 10 people on stage. And then, yeah, it was such an interesting mix of things and
Talk about being
challenges.
resourceful of all of us and having to do our jobs
I think
and
we were, yeah.
yeah. So you shot this right after COVID, or I forget what you
It
just said.
was,
21.
yeah, so it
So
was
21 and then you came back the next year, 22.
yeah, so in 21, that's why, like, I spent 2 weeks in isolation because
Yeah.
nobody was allowed in Newfoundland unless they were working.
Mm.
So yeah, I had to. The second year, we didn't have any isolation. That ban was gone. But the first, it was kind of good though. 2 weeks where really you have nothing to do,
Yeah.
but fine.
But
Like it
design,
was,
yeah. And you're left alone. Like
yeah, totally.
really, you're left alone to
Really,
really like
really left alone.
yeah.
So I had like all the wallpaper books, and my art director arrived at the same time because we both had to be in isolation. So we would but she wasn't allowed. We both had to be in isolation, but she had to start work a week later. But she decided to come the same week. Otherwise, we would just have to stagger her. So she
Oh
said, you
yeah.
know what, I'll come and spend a week, just to have it done so that we come out of
Nice.
isolation at the same time.
Nice.
Yeah, and so she started a week late, but trying to organize, building the office even when you're in
Yeah.
isolation was its own challenges.
I
Um,
I love that
yeah,
orange and yellow flower wallpaper in the kitchen. That is
Aztec,
fantastic. Aztec? Yeah. Aaron at Aztec.
Aztec, all the
Yeah.
wallpapers from Aztec.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
And
He's
I had like their books of old vintage wallpaper, and I'd do my picks. I'd have like I'd pick like 10 different ones, and then my art director, she'd go through. She's like, "They only have 3 rolls of this one unless you want to print it." I'm like, "No, we can't print anything. We just don't have the resources. We'll find the one that'll work. That won't be printed." The only wallpaper we printed was the one in the kitchen. Yeah. Because the other wallpapers in the hallway, we found some that were similar and we worked with what they had in stock. But yeah, the one in the kitchen was printed. Yeah.
The classroom, is that a build?
No.
No.
Actually,
Here's what blows my mind about the classroom. The rich and dark color of that blue is fantastic. I love
yeah.
it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Was that from his reference of his school, or is that what you felt for the class?
That's the school.
That's the school?
That's the school. I did not paint the school. It's fabulous.
Wow.
The things we found in that school were just so great. I remember first of all, we couldn't get into the school. At some point,
Well, yeah, with
at the beginning,
COVID, I thought you built it.
no, the location manager was trying to get us into the school. When we finally got into the school, we were like, and we'd been looking at other schools, And we'd had a couple of options, and one option where everybody was like, I think this is going to be our school. And it was really not the perfect school. And then finally at at the 11th hour, our location manager got into the school. It ended up that, I don't know, the principal had gone to high school with him or something, and he got in. And we went in there, and the classroom was pretty much perfect. I thought, like, they have different colored classrooms all along that hallway.
Oh, wow.
And that was the one we chose because the colors were just so good. And then all I was putting in was the graphics, and then we painted. Well, what did we paint? Down the cafeteria, which I don't know if you'll get to yet.
I haven't seen that.
Cafeteria. But we had the classroom there. We had the gymnatorium there, that sort of gym
oh, yeah.
space.
I saw the auditorium. Yeah, I saw that.
Stage. Yeah, it's like an auditorium stage. And then on the third floor, they have this unbelievable chapel, which you will see in later episodes.
Oh.
And I remember really one producer saying, don't take your director up to the third floor. We are not lugging equipment up to the third floor. And I'm like, I don't know. It's just so perfect. And Mark saw it and he was like, I love it. We have to use it. I'll write something to it, or it's so great. And on the third floor of the school, there's this amazing chapel, which you will see in a later episode, which was, it was just so perfect.
Oh, that's great.
So, yeah. So it became like the everything school, really. It has everything great in it. And it just, yeah.
Did it have an elevator?
No. It's really an old school.
Yeah. None of my schools had elevators, but I was just wondering if like the crew did have to haul everything.
They did.
Up. Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens. Gotta pack light. You gotta keep all your flags in the truck. I don't know. Not every flag has to be out on the sidewalk.
It was so perfect. It really was. It was really the school that we needed for the show. And so, the VP, the principal was so excited to have us that he was very generous with his space.
Great.
And the dressing in the school, like, look, I have, I guess it's called St. Bon's, and they have he has I don't know, portrait painting in his office, and he was like, yes, you can use it. And I'm like, okay, great. So there's lots of stuff. And then the secretary, he has a collection of I think he has a collection of computer stuff, just that he collects old computer stuff
like
from
the 80s.
Disc? So he had like dot matrix machines.
Oh, wow.
He had all of that stuff. And we were like, yeah, can we just borrow those and rent them from you? And he was like, sure. So they populate the set as well, like all of that stuff. And we used them in the radio station, actually. I think quite a bit of that stuff.
Oh my gosh, what a treasure. Like, who knew you were going to bump into that guy?
Everybody pulled stuff out of their closet.
Yeah.
When I was talking to some of the characters from the VOCM, that's the radio station that was the radio station his dad worked for and his brother worked for.
Oh, wow.
Some of the old timers who also worked for the radio station, they had all the stuff. They had all the paraphernalia. They had this radio station we were in. Again, the technician who ran the radio station was a bit of a collector, and he had the old board from the VOCM in the basement. And so he took that board and he put it into the radio station for us.
Wow.
Yeah, he just had it because he collects that kind of stuff. So it was just all of these things kind of came together so easily, like all the, the paraphernalia or all the signage for the VOCM. Somebody had that in their collection, and they brought it in and lent it to us, and the board, and just, yeah, it was just, everybody kind of just opened their closet doors and empty them.
It seems like because it was a Mark, in a sense, or like he knew people, or like the familiarness of him and his story, and being, like you said, being proud, people want to be a part of it too. And there's nothing better than contributing some set dressing, in my opinion.
I was an incredible story about the first episode with that moose.
Oh, the moose. Yeah. I was going to ask about that.
Yeah. Like talking about people opening their doors. So at just one point, we're talking about this moose and how do we show it, or do we show it, or what are we going to do? And then Alan Hocko, who's one of the producers for Take the Shot, he just came up to me and he's like, okay, here's the number of the Minister of Environment. He's going to call you. He's got a moose for you. And I'm like, what do you mean he's got a moose for me? He's like, well, they have roadkill moose in Newfoundland all the time, every week. And I talked to the Minister of Environment, and he was like, yep, I can get you a roadkill moose by next week. No problem.
God.
You just have to have a big freezer to put it in. And I was like, wait, it's summer. Like we can't put a giant moose on top of a car. We can't. Like it just like you're gonna need a forklift to move it around. It's not like I can put a real moose here. And so I was, I said to like Mark as well, I was like, we have to find another option. And I found this option in Toronto. There's a puppeteer in Toronto who he does all these great puppets. Ron Stefanik, he made like the whale for the boys that they go into. Yeah. And he's made all these commercials, and he had a moose. Of course he did. And he had a robotic moose. And he also had parts of a moose. And I was like, okay, we're going to rent the parts of a moose. We're not going to rent the big robot moose that needs 2 puppeteers to run. We'll rent the pieces of moose that we can put on top of the car. And so he sent us that. And Mark was so happy with that when we came to, I don't know if you're there yet, there is a scene where there will be a moose. Then everybody decided, let's rent his big robotic moose too.
Wow.
So we will see another moose in the series. Sorry, a bit of a spoiler.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was funny, because I was just like, we can't have a big. He's like, yeah, the Minister of Environment was like, normally we cut them up before we move them, but we'll move them whole. And I'm like, no.
It's a little too much information, buddy, about how you treat your
on set. It's just not going to work out.
Yeah, I can't imagine the on-set dresser. Like, can you move it a little bit, or can you? No.
I mean, just with the forklift, right?
Yeah.
We were on a busy road.
Street. Yeah.
Like that road was super busy. Right beside a highway, because Mark's house was on a highway originally. So he really wanted, when he picked that location, he says the best location, and the radio station beside it was a hairdresser, and then this little house. And so we turned it into the radio station and his house. But yeah, there's just noise everywhere. Like it's a sound man's nightmare. and we did stop traffic for that moose scene.
Yeah. I thought it was a little bit of like taxidermy and CGI or something. I was like, oh, this can't be a real moose, but it looked fantastic.
All puppet, all pieces
crazy.
of taxidermy.
That's great.
Yeah.
Gosh, puppeteer, who knew?
Yeah.
I would never. I guess you just start thinking like, who would have a moose? Who would?
But there's a lot. Like, well, actually, the moose head. We did find a moose head.
Yeah, I could see moose head, especially up there, like in a bar or something. My
decorator, her dad, has an entire taxidermied stuffed moose in his house. And they're a couple of hours from St. John's. And she sent a picture of that in, and we were like, I don't see how we're going to take that. And it's hugely expensive taxidermied moose that her dad had. I was like, I don't think we can use that. I think it will get damaged. It will. No, yeah. I think we have to find better options than that moose. So these are there is moose season. They hunt moose there.
Well, yeah. Probably got to keep the population down. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. They were brought there by accident, right? They don't have any natural predators on the island.
Oh,
so
wow.
I think their population has to be kept down.
Oh, wow. See,
and
things you learn.
It is an issue.
I'm sure. Well, they're big animals. They're huge.
They're huge. And they go right, like you hit them with their legs and their whole body just lands on the inside of the car. Like that's literally what happens. And it's funny. Another crazy story is that car, when we we smashed it up. Like the transport coordinator and I, we went there. We had the person who had originally sold us the car. He did the smashing for us. He owns tons of cars, and he has like a yard. The next day, he ran into a moose, and he sent me a picture of his actual pickup truck. He's like, "You won't believe." We were trying to create this, what a car would look like if it ran into a moose. And he just sent me a picture of his truck the next day where he ran into a moose.
Oh my gosh.
So,
you couldn't have just used his car, but yeah, you've got perfect indentation research.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, it worked well. I mean, I think it looked good. It looked great.
It looked great.
It was a fun. It was a funny thing, like to imagine that, because the transport coordinator, like, we dressed it at the shop, and then he traveled it. Yeah. So
that's really funny.
Wait for second season. We made these crazy things. I don't want to spoil too much for you. You'll have to see them. We made these giant ghetto blasters, and they also went through town, and people, like, they're just
It's always funny seeing like set walls or like a piece of a mountain on like a set truck when you're on the freeway or something. You're like, I wonder what show that is. Like,
for St. John's, it's very exciting. Like, it was on Twitter. Everybody's on Facebook. Somebody's seen the dead moose on the car, and so.
I love to, because I like to do messy, that the Fox's house. The Fox's house was they're a bit of a hoarders. They got a couple items in their house. I love doing hoarders. I love doing messy.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It was And
a contrast of color, I felt. It, like, their house contrasted a lot with Mark's house. At least I felt that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was lighter.
It was I mean, there's like one, it's always so fun to find all these things. There was just that one blanket that she found, that my decorator found, with reindeer on it, that was hanging off the window. I don't know how much you saw in that. You will see it eventually. I mean, in season 2, you do go back to Fox's house, but nice. So it was fun to do, like, just to create episode 4.
Well, they walk through the house. They've walked through the house kind of quickly, and then they're in the backyard. But
yes, with all the junk.
Yeah. I love that.
You'll be going back into the house at some point, so you'll see a bit more of the inside. It was so fun to get all that stuff. And then what really happened was, as we were collecting things for the main house, the buyers were like, well, it's on Facebook, we'll just have to buy it now. And then, so we had something like 5, or like, just in case, Liz, we don't find what you're looking for, here's a whole bunch of couch options. And so we had all these extra couches and extra beds and all these extra things, and they became Fox's parents' or dad's set. Really, it was a lot of extra pieces of things. So yeah,
it's funny the things you buy and you're like, I didn't get to use that, and then you're like, wait, I have those lamps. I have lamps. I can use those here. Like, it's building up a storage, like a set deck storage, and being able to, like, especially when they ask, like, can we have another lamp, or I always have extras. I don't have too many extras. I'm not like a 7 couch type of decorator, in the sense, like, I'm not bringing 7 couches in, but also your situation is different. If you have shipping issues and getting things onto that island, I would have bought 10 couches. I would have been like, I need safety couches.
Couches would show up. They really were safety couches.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I had wanted a retro couch, and I know I wanted something with texture. And we'd found one in Toronto on Kijiji that would work. And just the shipping of it, everybody was like, oh my God, it's going to become the $10,000 or $15,000 couch now, just for shipping alone. And then when there was a content sale in somebody's house, and decorator called me. She's like, "You have to come down here. I think this might be your couch. I think it'll work." And I did, and I was like, "Yeah, it'll work. It's great."
Oh, that's good.
And we had these 5 other couches that were like the backup couches, and now we could use them anywhere. And they will be.
Yeah.
You'll probably see them in other scenes and different sets that we reused, because once, like, just a vintage couch, if it existed on Facebook anywhere, we just bought them.
Yeah.
Just to be sure we had them.
Oh, yeah.
And same any vintage thing, like we were just buying stuff on Etsy. Like, I guess all the tiles and in the bathroom came off Etsy.
Oh,
Just the sort of pink and blue tiles, and then the matching soap dishes and toothbrush holders that had to be built into the walls.
You have to,
So
when you're doing period, you have to stock up, because
Yeah,
it'll be
you
gone
do.
and then you won't have it,
You do.
and it's gone. It's not coming. It's
Yeah.
not going to be restocked. It's gone.
Yeah, exactly. So we did really just do a huge search out for vintage things on Etsy. I think some of the curtains as well came from Etsy. Just
Fantastic.
to try to have enough time. Like,
Yeah.
we had the prep time, and then the great thing about this show is all the episodes were written.
Oh,
So
wow. Fantastic.
we really,
knew.
sourced, we block sourced really,
Yeah.
so that we had everything. They were really written within the first week of shooting. I think I had all the scripts in my hand, and so I really had to think, like, 5 or 6 episodes ahead. Like, how are we going to create that? We don't have, just to make sure that
Yeah.
that we could do it, that we could get everything in. Yeah, that was
Well,
kind of how it worked.
Especially if you're only shooting for 4.5, 5 days. I've done half hour too. Every Monday's a new episode. Like, it comes quickly. Like, you think like, oh, it's episode 5, we have time. Not really, because you're shooting all this time and you got to prep it.
How do we do it? We block shot 4 episodes at a time.
Oh, wow.
Or one director, the first 4 were the second director, and we block shot those. And then we had one director who had 2, and another director who had 2, and then one director who had 1. So those first 4 episodes,
That's nuts.
by having, it gives you enough time.
Yeah.
Because then you're in the school for enough
block.
time to be able to figure out stuff in the house. So I think we started in the school so that
You get more.
we have more time for the house and
Yeah.
get that dressed. And I think they had done a period show, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, that was like called Little Dog. So they had a canister full of stuff that we kind of went through and pulled out. Other furniture had been
Oh,
destroyed
nice.
because of weather, but
Yeah.
there were some little bits and things we could use. So we had that ability to add more layers to the main house, because there was just a chunk of stuff that we could
Yeah.
move
Filler.
in and use. Yeah.
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 Let me ask you this. How'd you get into this? How'd you get into being a designer?
Oh, so I was a props maker for a long time.
Oh, wow.
I used to build props for theater and opera and stuff. That's kind of how I started. And then I studied like set and costume design for theater. And so when my kids were young, I was actually building props for shows like, American Gods or things like that. And it was great because I'd leave every day at 3.
That is great.
Yeah.
Good tip.
So nice. And then when they were a bit older, somebody invited me to work in the art department, and it just seemed like everything I had kind of led so easily to those jobs. So I think I coordinated a show, and then I art directed the next one, and then I art directed for a bit, and then I designed, and everything just sort of went in this rapid trajectory.
Nice.
But I think it was all because I had all this other experience.
Yeah.
Prop making, I had all this build experience from building props, and also so much problem solving, like building all those things, finding the materials, like, so it just seemed to fit very easily into this. So that's kind of how I started.
Nice. Yeah, it is crazy how one job will lead you to another. or in a completely different direction that you didn't think before. But it's because of what you did, why you're in that direction. It's such a crazy little business we're in. It's crazy.
Yeah, it just seemed to work out. It was really smooth and very rapid. It was very rapid. But yeah, I just I think it was I don't know if I expected to design films like it. I designed theater stuff before as well. But I don't think I'd fully expected it. It just happened.
But you like it.
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do.
It's not like you're like, yeah, this is good, and then I'm gonna go back, or maybe I'll go be a decorator instead, or like, I think once you get to where you really like, you're like, I'm not going back. Yeah.
No, I really like it.
Yeah,
I love the challenge of finding the right world, the right hook for myself, like the conceptual world that whatever the character is going to be navigating in. And I really need to do that before I can like it,
right,
if you will.
Right.
I have to find all those big ideas in my head. I'm thinking about one right now, like I'm pitching on Tuesday for.
Nice.
But I'm like, yeah, I'm already trying to figure out, I don't know, like I said, like the hook. I have to figure out what's really gonna hook me to this thing before I.
Right.
Yeah. But I like it. I like it a lot. I love it.
I know. I love it too. I really do. And I love talking to people about it, obviously. Are you watching anything that you find inspiring right now?
Oh, I don't know. I was watching Dark Mirror the other day.
For this last season?
Yeah, this last season. I started watching that.
Episode 3 is rough. It affected me, and I couldn't go back. And then the last 2 episodes aren't like, a mindfuck at all. So episode 3 for me was like really harsh.
Okay. I'll pay attention to it. I just did the production design jury for the DGC for drama. So I had to watch like 15 different shows, which is always great. I love doing it because it gives me such a great cross section of what happened this year.
Yeah.
And I know you don't get to see them. So some of them you don't just never get to see because they're just not in my wheelhouse of things I'd ever watch. So it was kind of interesting. Like, we watch, I guess there's like 5 or 6 of us per jury, and we watch all of them. And then you kind of narrow down to the 5 candidates who are going to be really the nominations.
Nice.
So yeah, I think the last things I've been watching has been that.
Been drama shows. You need a comedy then.
I do, actually. I don't need comedy, that's true.
So fantastic to speak with Liz and just to hear about this process in shooting in a different country, and such the passion of this writer-creator to make it authentic and bringing in pieces for the set. That's awesome. I totally welcome that because it does. It gives you something else to run with, and it helps develop this character. So bravo to her, and this show looks great. And it's cute. It's super funny. It's kind of like Wonder Years. I swear. It was cute. So bravo to her. Thank you, Liz, for coming on and talking about it. Up next, I don't know. I have I hate, to announce things and then it doesn't happen. So I have some people I'm talking to. I never want to commit in case things happen. People's schedules change. But I'm still working on that movie production design film study, I'm going to call it, which will be during the fall. So I hope you got an earful. I am Kim Wanup for Decorating Pages.
Welcome to Pro Tips for the Pros, brought to you by Floor & Decor Bailey's Crossroads. In this series, we'll explore essential advice for professional contractors to deliver outstanding renovation results. Let's dive in. Clear communication is key to a successful renovation. Keep the customer informed at every stage of the project, addressing any concerns or questions promptly to maintain trust and satisfaction. Thank you for joining us for this pro tip on planning thorough renovations. Stay tuned for more expert advice brought to you by Floor & Decor Bailey's Crossroads.
A lot of people tolerate ordinary. Ordinary bathrooms, kitchens, entryways. Well, not on your watch. If you're a pro, you've got a new partner in town. Floor & Decor. From tile to wood to stone, Floor & Decor has more styles and job lot quantities of Schluter, Mapei, Laticrete, and other brands pros trust. Come see a whole new way to wow with Floor & Decor. Coming soon to Bailey's Crossroads.